I just watched Inland Empire for the first time. I've been getting into David Lynch more finally after all these years of being into movies. I got into his shit so late. I mean, I watched Elephant Man years ago, watched Eraserhead maybe a handful of years ago, and only recently finally started watching Twin Peaks and just his other stuff. I've been, after he passed, I've been really just loving any clip that I see of him talking about art and talking about filmmaking and just anything. He was a very interesting person, and I'm really fascinated his approach because I relate to him in a lot of ways as far as that. I don't know, being obsessed with being such a purist with the arts in that way, or also just like when I heard him talking about how much he hated school and shit. I've never related to someone as much to him. I haven't with him. It's like I haven't really related to someone so strongly since like the first time I started watching Larry David as well. Like just these specific people that I really resonate with in a lot of ways. But David Lynch, Inland Empire. I mean, I've heard about all of his stuff. Just a lot more obviously with social media, and you see a lot of his stuff pop up. So I knew this movie was shot entirely on tape, or like I'm pretty sure, yeah, like mini DV tapes back in the day, and those types of like those older digital tape cameras. He shot the entire thing on one of those, and it's interesting. I was looking at some of the reviews on IMDb, and some people were saying it's like his worst movie, and some people were saying it's it's amazing, it's brilliant. I think it's a very justified movie. The movie is it's understandable why it would be very divisive, is what I mean. All of his stuff is really out there, first of all, and I'm super biased in anything that I say. I just bought like basically all of his stuff. The Criterion Collection had a sale recently, and I just basically bought all of his shit. As much as I can, basically, besides Dune. Obviously, I'll still end up watching that, I'm sure, but I probably won't get a copy of that till much later on. And the reason I was excited to watch this, I actually needed to make sure it had a little bit of a smudge on it, so to make sure the disc worked, I had obviously watched all 3 hours of this movie. And because that's 3 hours, I want to try to keep this as succinct and as quick as possible. The other thing is, because I've been watching Twin Peaks, and I'm doing a whole other review about that when I finish it. Obviously, before I watch The Return, I'm going to watch at least all of it and Fire Walk with Me, and then I'll do a review on both of those. But, the reason I'm excited to watch more of his movies is like they'll actually, at least come to they wrap up movies. I love movies because they wrap up the story right then and there. With Twin Peaks, I'm not going to get too much into it, but it's definitely taken me a bit to finish season 2, is all I'll say. Because it's just a lot, like, there are not many episodes, but they are 45 minutes long each. Some of the episodes being a double episode, which is like an hour and a half. So it is very, anyway, I was excited to watch this because of the fact that just, I'm very biased with all of this shit, man. It's like, not only do I really love who he was as an artist, but I just love his movies. I haven't seen a single movie of his or just anything that he's made. I haven't seen anything that I didn't like of his. So I'm super biased in anything that I say because I just love this man. Could have filmed himself taking a shit, and I probably would like it. But because he would do something artsy with that probably. So this movie is understandably, like, I could see some people thinking that this is boring as shit and falling asleep to it. I could see some people also using this as an excuse to thinking that they can do something just as good or just as watchable with the same equipment and everything. I think some people look at, David Lynch is one of those people that others will look at what he's done and, try to do something similar, but they don't do it the way that he does. Like he even with his experimental, like, almost unwatchable stuff, or is extremely artistic and abstract approach to things. I don't think it's unwatchable. What I mean is like it's so opposite of what people expect out of a movie. I'm into that shit. I'm into like very abstract, like, it feels like this David Lynch is who Harmony Korine wishes he could be, kind of thing. David Lynch is clearly a master at feeling things out, and that's the kind of that's what this movie is to me. It's very similar to like Tree of Life, and a lot of David Lynch's stuff is just like this in general, though. That's not. I know Tree of Life isn't him. I'm just saying that it's another example of a type of movie that you just kind of feel as opposed to try to dissect or understand. Like Inland Empire, honestly, I was not like zoning out a lot of the time, but I would just kind of get lost in the imagery, and it feels like this movie he was just wanting to use as much of the way that the tape looks, like the way shooting on digital tape looks. It's like he wanted to use as much of that as he could. So of course they're using like flashlights and doing a lot of very, you know, theatrical, like and kind of, you know, more of a hands-on kind of approach to the imagery, and just it's very atmospheric, you know, it's very atmospheric, and just the way that you know, as the young people call it, David Lynch was vibe maxing on this. You know, he was totally trying to just max out like whatever he felt with not only those types of cameras, but just also wanting to play around with the story, you know, which is Laura Dern's character is an actress who, you know, is a part of this movie, and she finds out from Jeremy Irons, who plays the director, that it's actually a remake, and the original two actors were murdered. So she kind of like gets herself it's kind of like, you know, similar to like a Perfect Blue or Black Swan kind of thing, or whatever, someone getting kind of lost in the role that they're playing, or someone kind of not being, you know, not knowing when it's them, and then the role that they're losing themselves in. And there's also kind of an element of like you, the viewer, being a part of the experience as well, like at the end of it. If you've seen it, you'll know what I mean by that. This is just like artistic to the max. It really is just like extreme artistry, which is why I like it. I really love that kind of thing. This will probably not be my favorite David Lynch movie, but I love how much this movie made me just feel all sorts of different things, and I feel like it not really inspired me, but it made me completely rethink like how I could approach that with my own making of videos, or making movies or anything like that. Like imagery. He was David Lynch was a painter as well, and he loved just playing with the things themselves. You know, he was just super into the way things looked visually, and knew how to, you know, add the right sound to bring that atmosphere to life. That's a very important thing as a director, and just as a filmmaker, you have to kind of know what you want it to feel like. And he just knew exactly what everything he touched. He just knew exactly what he wanted to do, and he didn't fuck around. Basically, he doesn't fuck around with this. Like, even though this is kind of one of those, you could totally argue this is kind of a, you know, a movie about nothing that doesn't really, you know, like nothing happens, or, you know, it's like one of those movies where it's like, how do you even explain the story? How do you, like, you know, this is probably like the perfect introduction to David Lynch, because if you like this, you'll like everything else that he's made 100%, because this is him at his most Lynchian. He is extremely like himself in this movie, as far as like the way that he directed it, and I love that about it. I don't know if it's style over substance. I didn't really feel like that, because I feel like the actual story did come through. Like, I'm not, in what I'm saying like everything I'm saying is what someone who isn't really you know, I'm just purely from like a general audience standpoint, some people would definitely feel that way about this, or just not get it, or it's not for them, or whatever. And that's why movies like this are in the Criterion Collection, or why movies like this are very important to experience, because it is that's exactly what it is it is just kind of an experience, or something, like I said, something you kind of you kind of take it in. It's like almost like a sensory experimental kind of thing. You know, it's a trip. It literally feels like you're in a dream or a nightmare, or both. There's some really great, before I forget, there's some really great moments that genuinely like made me go, holy shit. Like, I don't, you know, necessarily like freak out too much from jump scares. It's mainly like sound. Like, if there's a really loud sound, I don't know, especially watching something in the movie theater or something, when there's just a loud striking audio type of thing going on. that'll definitely catch me. But I'm not necessarily one for, I rarely get like freaked out or genuinely like bothered by what I'm watching. But there are some moments in this, like it's so quiet. This is why a lot of people would not be a fan of this probably, or not a lot of people, but just again, just general people that aren't into this like very artsy. It's extremely artsy, this movie. It's so artistic, but there's so many quiet moments, and it's a lot of like people just talking vague cryptic kind of languages, and then just these long quiet takes of just people walking kind of slowly, and then there's obviously the sequences of random clips of the rabbit, the people dressed like rabbits in a household, and that sequence is fucking awesome. It's really all those just little visuals of all those moments are really fascinating for sure. But there's also like that there's this one specific moment where Laura Dern's like walking and it cross dissolves and she's walking in slow motion with like a flashlight kind of shining on her, and by the time it gets to the end of her getting close to the camera, it's like genuinely like horrifying, and in some ways it's unsettling. It's so bizarre and how it's lovely uncomfortable. It's a lovely uncomfortable kind of thing that I rarely feel with movies. He can really get you there with so little is what I love about it. I always applaud this guy for that, is that he can get you to a specific place without like all these like trying to overdo it or trying so hard at it. It's just kind of feel like it feels like he's always feeling out every single frame. And that moment and a couple of moments where they edit, like do some like weird like facial morphing similar to like the way that the stuff looks in the Black Hole Sun music video with all their faces kind of warping like that. They do some freaky shit like that almost like Aphex Twin kind of shit. And just like really specific choices like that are genuinely like it's such a quiet movie for like an hour straight. It'll just be like kind of like, it feels like a long time of just these kind of quiet moments, and then out of nowhere it's this fucking crazy ass thing that happens. It's really cool, man. It's just this shit is cool as fuck to me, and stuff that is so in its own playing field from an like strictly when we're talking about an artistic approach to filmmaking, or just having that approach to visualizing something in that way is really incredible. I absolutely love it, and I'm excited to watch all of his other stuff because I know that it'll have more of a story, but with those same vibes. So I'm excited just to pick up more, just get like absorb all of those types of things that he did with his movies. Trying to make sure I don't forget anything that stood out to me. This was definitely not anything like I thought it was going to be, but it's just cool. I don't know why. I went to. It's like this movie feels like if a student project or someone made something in college and it was actually good, is what I'll say. And I didn't realize, I was just looking in the back of that, 2006. Man, that came out like way later in his career, and I didn't realize. I thought it was like maybe early 2000s or late 90s, but 2006 is it's only 20 years ago. It's a lot more recent than his other stuff. So I just look at this text on this case here. Like, look at the text of that. It's just got a vibe, man. It's got such a cool thing. What I will say is that the use of the women in all the there these scenes where Laura Dern is with like this group of 6 to 7 women, and I'm wondering if they were doing like a Medea type of thing, or like that's the way one of my act teachers approached Medea when I watched it in high school, was like all these different voices that represent kind of her inner thoughts, all these different people on stage. So I'm wondering, that's what I got from it, is all those characters are like different parts of Laura Dern's character, and maybe the character that she's playing, like the character within the character within the character is what I'm saying. The role that the character herself is playing, obviously, yeah, you get what I'm saying. it feels like that's supposed to be kind of a mix of the two, or just, I don't know, her innermost thoughts and I don't know. There's no way to try to explain it. There's no way. That's why people don't like these things. Most people don't like things that they can't like categorize so perfectly or put into a specific place in their minds, and his movies are just not like that. These types of choices, like, now that I'm thinking about it, it's like maybe that isn't what, as I was saying, that I think that that's what the group of women represents. I don't know if that's what they represent. I don't have any idea what a lot of it is, and that's fucking cool because I'll be thinking about it and wanting to kind of just continue to unravel. I'm excited to watch this a second or third time, for sure. I'm excited to like show this to people because this is a flick. This is a movie where people, this movie separates the real like lovers of cinema from the rest. I like I said before, I'm just biased towards David Lynch's stuff, but I love that this is the kind of place that cinema can go to, and this is what is possible when somebody isn't like afraid to be daring and be bold in that way, and have an audacious approach. This is very important to make sure that movies like this are being made at all. You know what I mean? And he was one of the only people that could have ever done this with such a cool style and such an interesting approach. That man was able to just, he brought on such a profound amount of intrigue, like just an insane amount of you can't help but feel curious to I just want to analyze his stuff, even though there's probably no point in doing that. I just want to dissect what he's doing, or see what it is from an artistic standpoint. And I'm really into it. I can't wait to watch the rest of his stuff. And I'll definitely be talking about Twin Peaks when I'm finished watching that, but it's gonna be a little bit still. I have about 11 episodes left in the movie, so that'll definitely take me this next week or two. But more David Lynch soon. I'm gonna watch every single movie that I haven't seen of his, and then eventually I'll rewatch Elephant Man and Eraserhead. But I gotta watch all the new stuff. The reason I'm not reviewing movies I've already seen is because I'm enjoying the new stuff. I'm enjoying new experiences and all that good shit. So yeah, Inland Empire. Not for everybody, but for David Lynch fans, an essential part of his career. It's an essential part of his filmography. Definitely worth watching if you're into his stuff and you haven't seen it yet.